Welcome into another episode of the Young Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Jay. Super excited to be here with you today. This is going to be a good one. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, thank you for listening. First and foremost, whether you're out mowing the lawn right now, making the kids a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or you're just laying on the couch letting them run amok, or maybe you're changing diapers. Who knows? Whatever you're doing, thanks for listening today. I really appreciate it. It truly means the world to me that you're taking your time and listening today. Today, I have George with me. I will introduce George in just a moment. Before we do that, I do just want to shout out today's sponsor of the podcast is going to be Forefathers Clothing. Forefathers Apparel, Clothing, whatever you want to call it. They mean the same thing. Go to synonyms.com. And Forefathers Clothing is literally changing the game for dads of how awesome we can look, how unique we can look. And there's a little something for everyone. Swimmers, golfers, barbecuers, moviegoers, pizza eaters, everyone in between. There's a polo for you. And the best part about this deal right now is my code YoungDad gives you 20% off. And it's a great way to support the podcast. Plus, that's pretty much twice as much as you'll save with their just standard code on the websites. Code YoungDad, Forefathers Apparel. Get yourself as a dad looking great. Get you and your mini and me daddy and me polos, pullover athletic sweatshirts, socks, hats, everything in between, except for pants. There's no pants yet, but the polos, the mini me's, the sweatshirts, all of it's just fantastic. Again, Forefathers Apparel. You can find that link down in the description of the show. And yeah, now we'll get into it. Let me introduce George here. George, you are an author of the international best-selling young adult science fiction novel Excelsior, its 2 sequels, and the 5-part science fiction sports serial From Parts Unknown. You served as president of the Missouri Writers Guild from 2017 to 2018, and you're also the host and producer of the podcast Excelsior Journeys and From Dusk Till Dark, outside the Marvel Studios. You're also an audiobook narrator, lending your voice to books of all genres. You're a New Yorker since birth, and now you currently live in St. Louis, Missouri, with your wife and your daughter. So, George, welcome to the podcast. Happy to have you.
Thank you so much. And I'm a fan of polos myself, so I'm gonna have to take a look at that site.
You're gonna have
especially since you said for moviegoers, I was like, there it is. So yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, you will have to. The movie night one is super cool. It has a lot of homage to Disney movies, but like movies that we probably would have seen very first when they first came out. The little Toy Story Storyball, Monsters Inc. references in there. Just the pattern is so cool. It's a dark colored polo, but with bright connotations. And there's like little Marvel characters on there that you can kind of see.
Sweet.
It's so cool. I'll probably pull that up at the end of the show just to show everyone, since they're probably all like, man, I really want to look at this polo. Well, don't worry, I'll get it for you. Hold, please. George, tell us a little bit about, that was just a brief little synopsis of who you are. Tell us about you. Tell us about your podcast. Tell us about your writing journey, and just anything you want us to know about you.
Well, hello everyone. My name is George Soroy, and I am an author. I am a podcaster. I'm an audiobook narrator and up-and-coming voice actor. And I have been doing my own podcast, Excelsior Journeys, since 2018. It's been this October. It'll be 6 years. And actually, as we're recording this right now, I'm finishing up my 8th season of the show, and in July I'll be starting up season 9. I got a lot of great creatives that I speak with on a regular basis, and it's just been a wonderful time. I do love podcasting so much, and that led me to co-found a podcast network called the Once Upon a Podcast Network, and I started that with 2 other podcasters, Stacey Rourke and Sandra Shear Fizzackerly. And it's been a wonderful collaboration with them, and we're in the process of actually like reaching out for more shows to join our network. So the whole setup is for creatives by creatives, and so that's something that I've just had a lot of fun doing. On top of that, I've also just been recently named the director of media relations for my new publisher, Ronan Weatherford, and so that's a whole new journey that I'm really, really excited about as well.
That's awesome. That is incredible. It's something I've always wondered about, because I see different podcasters on different like networks, and I'm like, what is a podcasting network? Like what do you do? Like, do you just say, "Hi, I'm a podcaster"? Are you limited in what you can do? Because I've had 2 different networks reach out to me, and I'm like, "I don't even know what a podcast network's supposed to be." Like, I know what a network is, I know what networking is, I've been on LinkedIn
Mhm.
since I was in college,
Yeah.
but that's different. I know how to network with people, I know how to communicate with people. I've had so many guests on the podcast, that's networking, but I've never been
Yes.
part of a network.
With a
Good.
network, basically like what we're doing, and this is really just kind of the best case scenario. And this is something that I've been going through like a lot of trial and error myself because I've joined other networks and it was fun being a part of that and being a part of a community and sharing ideas about different things that can be done with everyone's shows and giving shout outs to other shows. But then as time went on, things just kind of went by the wayside. But I really like that feeling of being able to just have like a community of fellow podcasters and to be able to say, hey, instead of listening to this podcast, instead of subscribing to my own, subscribe to this one, subscribe to this one, how about this one as well? And that just feels much more freeing to myself, because it's very hard for me to always be just like, hey, listen, download my show, subscribe to my show, read my book, buy my book, all that stuff. It's hard for me to be that sort of self-promoting feeling, with that. I enjoy letting people know, just like, hey, I just spoke with this amazing talent. Take a look. If you're interested, here's the link. I like to do that. But at the same time, it's one of those things where just like, yeah, I love being behind the microphone. I love talking, to other people. I love being a speaker at different events, and being a podcaster has created those opportunities like that. I love being at signings. I love doing all that stuff. But it's just a matter of kind of making that first step and getting my name out there. That's always just been difficult for me. And funny enough, I think that the fact that I'm going to be this director of media relations for my publisher, that means that I get to kind of do what I love to do, is just saying, hey, I know this great person, I can go ahead and get that person on, let me get this person on, let me get that person on there. And working with the authors and basically kind of getting them camera ready, getting the microphone ready, getting them to be relaxed enough to share their stories. That in itself is a whole new wonderful opportunity that kind of fits in with my own issues, basically. Just someone who doesn't really like talking about himself but loves talking about other people.
I love that. I love that, and that makes a lot of sense. I'm the same way. Like, I could self promote myself all day long on my own platform,
Hmm.
of course, but
Yeah.
I really try to highlight moments when I'm posting like reels or shorts or photos on my Instagram that really highlight other things, that really highlight the
Yeah.
other person talking or their ideas, things that they brought to the podcast, and things like that. Hence why I talk to other people all the time, because I wouldn't want to listen to me drown on for 45, 60 minutes at a time about the different topics. And plus, I don't think I would be 100 plus episodes in if it was just me drowning on for hours on end.
Right.
Because that would get not fun for
Mm.
anyone, I don't think. I think people would disengage and numbers would drop to no numbers. And I would lose a lot of that passion, but I really do enjoy that part where I get to talk to other people, other podcasts, other like hosts, authors, and things like that. And it's one of my favorite things. So I can definitely see that. It makes a lot of sense. It's really cool. We'll have to talk more about that off camera and kind of what those look like, so I can understand what this realm looks like a little bit more. But regardless, you're also a dad, George, correct?
Yes. Yes, I am.
And you have a daughter, so of course support your local girl dad. Right here it says on the hat. I'm a father of 2 girls myself,
Mhm.
and you became a dad in 2017, correct?
Yep. Correct. Right after
2017.
I was supposed to be a dad in January of 2018, but I was saying the morning after she was born, I just said, like, some people just can't wait to get out there and change the world, and that's exactly what she's done. She changed my world for the better.
Absolutely. My oldest daughter was also born in 2017, a bit earlier in the year, but so she came 2.5 months early
Two
from
and a half months early. Yep.
what I understand. So she was premature at birth.
hmm
What was that kind of like for you and your wife to be expecting? Thought you had a couple more months, but then didn't have a couple more months. So what was that sudden kind of like boom, baby?
It was definitely, I would say, it took us by surprise, but at the same time, it didn't really, because we were we noticed that there were, there was potential for some complications. And when everything happened, basically what wound up happening was, my wife had gone in for a checkup, and it turns out that her blood pressure was skyrocketing. And so the doctors basically just said, "You're not going anywhere. In fact, you're going to stay here until you give birth." And so that really kind of freaked us out, because it was just like, "Oh, so we're going to be in here for 3 months as you're going through all of this." We wanted to make sure that, that she was able to stay in there for as much as possible. He stayed in for about a week, and then once my wife started having some additional contractions, and thankfully, this is one of those things where you just gotta indulge in the serendipitous moments. But we had one of my wife's best friends, who's a mother of four, and either four or five. Like, I think it's four. But she was there to visit, and we were all having dinner and some Subway, and I remember it was pouring out, and it just so happened that the path to get to the road that I was on to get to the hospital from where we were, from my work, it was so dimly lit that it just felt like almost like a horror movie, just kind of going home, and everything just seemed fine. It was, hooray, her friend is here. I'm gonna, get some Subway, and we'll have some dinner and everything. And her friend brought some 5-layer dip, and so we're just, we're just relaxing and everything. Everything seemed fine, and then all of a sudden, she just started having some contractions, and her friend immediately looked at that as just like, this could be it. And so instead of just dismissing it, we went ahead and reached out to the staff, and they were able to confirm, it's coming. So, considering everything, we got to get her out now. And so her friend stayed the whole time, and was able to be there when my mother-in-law came in. I remember just just putting out the word to my coworkers and just saying that it's time, it's happening. And I followed it up with a picture of Rafiki holding up Simba. And it was just like, there it is. This is happening. Sure enough, everything was so fast. It was, get her into the OR, get my gown on, get my mask on and everything. So that way I'm there, get the drape up, so that way no one sees anything, and just like about maybe a minute, 2 minutes later, all of a sudden we have a kid in the room. And, we were able to get like a quick shot of her hand and our hands and everything. And then it was just like, okay, get her into the incubator. It was one of those things where just like, we had no time to really kind of dwell on it. It was just like, all of a sudden, here we are. We have a kid, and it's amazing. And the funny thing is that we were so convinced that it was going to be a boy, and everything that she kept on reading about, said that it was going to be a boy. Everything that all the different signs and everything that, she was trying out, it's all said that she was going to be a boy. But we did an ultrasound. This was like a few months beforehand, and go ahead and, they were checking everything out and everything. And then all of a sudden they were just like, no, it's a girl. And at that moment, and I swear to you, this happened over the loudspeaker, over the intercom, they were playing music. And at that moment, as soon as they said it's a girl, what comes on? Stevie Wonder's "Isn't She Lovely?"
Mm.
And it was just like, this is happening. This is really happening. And then it became, now what are we going to name her? then it became that. It was just like, what are we going to, and each name that we were throwing out there, it just didn't sound right. It didn't quite have the sort of oomph that we were looking for. And then one day we were just kind of chilling out. We were sitting down and watching TV and everything. And I remember I was sitting on the couch and my wife was walking back and forth behind the couch and just goes, "What about Scarlett?" And I immediately, as a G.I. Joe fan, I immediately turned around and was just like, yes, that is it. That's the perfect name. And then she goes like, or maybe Charlotte. And I was like, no. You said Scarlett. Scarlett is it. And it wound up being the perfect name for her. And she is, just, she surprises me every day. She, just makes me smile every day. And is just someone that I couldn't be prouder of, considering all of the, the various complications that come with having someone born as premature as she was. The fact that she is so healthy and so bright and so energetic, and you couldn't tell that there was any issues from the beginning, because I mean, basically the only thing is like she's wearing glasses. That's it. And I am perfectly fine with that as a glasses wearer myself, and someone who started wearing glasses in kindergarten, and she started wearing them in preschool. So the whole thing, it just worked out just so perfectly. And she's a riot and just so smart and so much fun to be with, and just a real, just a personality plus kind of person that I times I'm just like, wow, this, we get to be the parents for this kid. That's talk about hitting the jackpot.
That's lovely, and that's a
Yeah.
blessing. So even with her being premature that much,
Mm-hmm.
there's been no long-term complications,
None.
no impairments
And
whatsoever. That's amazing.
in fact, we wound up bringing her home about a week earlier than expected. She got to a point where anytime that they had kind of taken any sort of wires off or any sort of like monitors off or anything like that, she just thrived. It was just one less thing to worry about, and then another less thing to worry about, and then another one and another one, and she just kept on improving. And then as soon as we brought her home, it was just like she became like, Instagrow almost, because like she just started every little like monitor or anything like that. If they brought us a monitor to hook up to her at night, and she was great. She was, just absolute joy, and just so and even, like it took a little while for her to really kind of get accustomed to walking, accustomed to talking. But once she did with both, it was just like, it wasn't like, okay, I'm walking, and like I'm stumbling and walking. It was just like I'm crawling, walk, run. It's like
Yeah.
that. All of a sudden it just became like, just bam. Once she started talking, now all of a sudden she's learning new words that we got to make sure that she's not saying much in public. So it's a riot. It's she's always keeping us on our toes, and now she's just finished up with kindergarten. She's going to be going into first grade, and the teachers love her, and that's terrific. So
It's incredible.
we just couldn't be happier.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So you started her a little bit later then, it sounds like?
A little bit, like we I mean, she's born in November,
Oh, it's a
so
November birthday. No, I hear you.
yeah,
My youngest was born in November, so I had to put that together. My oldest
yeah,
one's born in July, so she just finished first. She's going to second next year.
yeah.
Um, Same birth year though, but those November birthdays, like my oldest, she's 3, she's turning 4, and she's just gonna start preschool.
Hmm.
And then I think she'll be in preschool for 2 years, I think she'll have to be. So she'll
Yeah,
go into kindergarten 5, turning 6.
right.
kind of thing. So I don't know. I haven't mapped that out yet. It's
Yeah.
too far out there. Let me just worry about the one that is in school, making sure she survives. No, that's such a cool story. And you mentioned at the very beginning of all of it that some people can't wait to come out and change the world, and that
Mhm.
she's has 100% done that for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Um, in what ways have you seen your world change?
I've just seen myself kind of expanding a little bit more in terms of like my mind and different things that originally I wasn't thinking about. Then all of a sudden now it's just like it's something I'm applying to to every day. Just the fact that she is able to pop in every now and then and visit me at work. It just makes the day brighter. Just everything that there are things that like that I used to take for granted, that all of a sudden I have to explain. And when I do, I realize like, wow, I really just kind of just took it as okay, that's the rules, and then that was it. But then it was just like, wow, I really need to like go a little bit deeper and explain this. And the great thing is that I'm getting a response from it. It's not just like dismissive or anything. It's something that, she's showing an actual interest in. And so I want to cultivate that. I want to just, really enjoy that experience. One of the things that I always like to do whenever I get payment for an audiobook that I'm narrating, what I do is I'll pick up a Lego set, and because it's something that she and I can do together, and just like a little something that we can just kind of put together ourselves and then just put up on the shelf and everything. I was just like, that was from doing that audiobook. And, this one is from doing that audiobook. And this is from that bonus over at work. And just, different things like that we can just kind of make into something that we do ourselves. And, taking her to movies. We finally got to take her to the movies recently. And, we went to go see The Little Mermaid. And I was so worried that that it was going to be just like the typical taking a kid to the movie and everything and trying to chase him up and down the aisle and everything, but she was fantastic. She was one of the most well-behaved kids that were there and everything. She got herself all situated, got her feet up on the lounge chair, and she was into it. She was into the whole experience, and we've since gone to a few more movies together, and it's been just something that's a lot of fun. Like we get to go see Inside Out 2 next weekend. And she is really excited about that. She's excited for Moana 2. And she's got like it's been wild seeing her become a fan of things. That to me is something that I am having a blast with, because she started out, like with Duplos, and now she's on like full on Legos, and she loves playing with them. She's got toys for different franchises. She's got her Bluey toys. She's got her Paw Patrol toys. She's got her Gabby's Dollhouse toys. And she loves playing with them. She just recently discovered American Girl dolls. And after several attempts to try to get her into playing with American Girl dolls, and she just didn't respond to it, all of a sudden she did. She finally did. And then we wound up like tracking down, my wife tracked down this one American Girl doll that's got brown hair and blue eyes, which is what she has. And then we got like this pair of American Girl dolls that are the same style as hers. And the smile on her face when she saw that, it's one of those things like you're thankful that you have the technology to just got to literally bottle up a memory like that, because now we can. And so it's been a wonderful time, and so many different things. It was just like I would take for granted, but being with her and getting to explain things to her and getting to see how she enjoys different things, and it's been a real treat, and it's something that I will always cherish.
I love that. And I think that movie age is so different for like different kids.
Yeah.
Like my 3-year-old, she's 3.5 now, but she can go to the movies and she'll mostly sit. As
Hmm.
long as she has everything to keep her going, some popcorn, a drink, a candy, she's solid. My
Yeah.
7-year-old, she's been able to go to the movies since she was gosh, probably since she was about 4, she's been able
Wow.
to just kind of sit and just watch because she likes to just sit and watch. She's always liked the experience and things like that. So different kids,
Hmm.
different ages can do those things. But I think it kind of goes back to something you mentioned earlier. And you mentioned when she was in the NICU that whenever they kept taking things off of her, she thrived.
Yeah.
Whenever she kept kind of being given a chance to grow, she grew. And even now, you keep seeing it like, okay, we keep giving her chances, and it clicks.
Yeah.
Giving her a chance, and it clicks. Give her a chance, then it clicks. Give her
Hmm.
a chance at the movies. Well, we probably could have been doing this for the last 1 or 2 years, probably.
Probably.
Um,
Yeah.
Granted, the movies have been terrible for kids in the last couple of years. This is finally a good year of movies in the this last 6 to 10 months. There's finally been some decent kid movies. So, but that's a different conversation. But regardless, the ones we have right now are good. But you never know what your kid's capable of until you give them that chance. You never
Right.
know what's going to click and what's going to be there until you give them that chance. 9 times out of 10, they're going to take it and they're going to thrive. They're going to do just fine.
Hmm.
The worry was just in your head as a parent. It
Right.
wasn't them, it wasn't you. Well, it wasn't them, but it was you. You were thinking, okay, when I go to the movies, I've seen kids just kind of go crazy, run up and down. I'm gonna be chasing her. That's gonna be my kid. Of course, you know your kid better than anyone else knows your kid, but you never know until you try. So it's important to give our kids those opportunities to grow. Take the cords off and let them grow and let them thrive. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I see that as something kind of like a correlation here between these things. So what ways for you, I guess, let's think about it here. What ways for you as an individual have you changed? Like what has changed just for you as a man, as an individual, as a person since your daughter came into the world?
I like to think that I've become less selfish. Now, like there will be times when it may not always be the case, but I feel like I'm doing my part to make the whole atmosphere better. At least I hope that at least that's my goal. And there are times when I've faltered, you know, mistakes are made, but I'm doing my best to try to live up to those expectations.
Definitely. I love
Yeah.
that. And how's it affected your relationship with your wife from before having her to now having her for, the last 7 years or so? What was different before? What's been different after? And how has that improved or how has that changed your relationship, I guess?
I'm grateful to say that it's been just very consistent this whole time. I feel like it's just been like very solid, very good foundation between the two of us. And the way I see it is just like if I can end the day with her picking me up from work, and we're on our way home, and she's got stories and I got stories, and we're just making each other laugh, then we're good. And that's the way I feel. Like it's we'd go to work, we would, on our way to work, we would like listen to either, morning radio, we listen to a podcast, whatever, more podcasts than anything, because both of us really enjoy them. Um, and but we're both able to kind of sit and relax and chat and everything, and be able to just be with each other, and just knowing that we have to it's up to us to keep things going, but at the same time, like, we're not feeling pressure by that. We're enjoying the fact that we're making this work. It's been a wonderful time. It really has. I just hope that that I can continue to do my part and just keep on getting better and better at this role.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Trying to think here. Okay, I guess let's move into this area right here. Tell us about the novels. Tell us about the Excelsior novels, the sequels, and then also From Parts Unknown. What
Yes.
inspires you in to write? What was the very first thing? Which came first, Excelsior or From Parts Unknown?
But character-wise, it was Excelsior. Excelsior was part of a universe that I created with some friends back when I was in 4th grade. It was a group of characters, me, born in 76, growing up in the 80s. I had just this wonderful cornucopia of pop culture just getting thrown at me on a daily basis. And it's one of those things I have to say thank you to Ronald Reagan for loosening the standards from the FCC to allow these basically like 30-minute toy commercials to be fed to me on a regular basis. So because of that, we wound up getting He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. We got Transformers, we got Voltron, we got G.I. Joe, we got Thundercats, we got Silverhawks, we got like all this great stuff. And it was constantly being fed to me the same way that Star Wars was, the same way that the Star Trek was, although, like Star Trek, that was more of my father really kind of wanting me to get into it and me just soaking it up and loving it. But when assignments were done in school and my friends and I were just looking for ways to pass the time, I just started drawing these characters, these robotic characters, and they were as rudimentary as you can imagine. They were just boxy and just like a series of rectangles, and I could only sketch so much. And so as we created those, and like other classmates were coming up with a couple other ones as well, then it became like, wow, this is fun. Let's keep on. I want to, keep on expanding this universe. So I was coming up with more and more and more. And then when I went to a different school, I just kept on going at it more on my own and creating new characters and coming up with storylines. I even did like a little 4-issue long comic book for the first group of characters. And I remember my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Mizaki, really responding to those and really seeing that, that I got something here, even though as it was as basic as you can imagine, but there was like a germ of something there. And then when I switched states and went from New York to Richmond, Virginia, then I just kept on going at them even more because I didn't have any friends for at first. Thankfully, I wound up getting a decent amount of friends while I was there during the 6 years that I was there. But those characters, they were always there. And so I just kept on picking at them more and more and more. And then finally it got to a point when I was in 9th grade that I just started writing about them instead of just drawing them. And so they went from a comic strip that I would do into prose. I would fill my steno notebooks with things that should have been homework assignments, but they were in fact, it was just in fact, like all of this lore, all these different stories. And then during that time, my grades just tumbled. And for 3 of my first 4 years in Richmond, I had to go to summer schools. The 4th year in Richmond, it ended with me having to take English over again, of all things. I just didn't get along with my teacher. We didn't jive well, and I didn't really respond to the way that she was doing anything. And so it turns out that my English teacher in summer school was amazing. And she was, just, you wanted to impress her. You wanted to get the best possible grades for her. And I wound up getting an A in that. And that really just kind of picked up my confidence, and everything seemed to improve in a much better way over the next 2 years. One of the things that we were doing was we were talking about King Arthur and the whole lore of King Arthur. And we were watching the 1981 John Boorman movie, Excalibur, which became like a real life-changing movie for me. Because while I'm watching that, I was just like, ooh, I need to have someone at the center of my little universe, and someone who is like this legendary character, who's like a god in human form, and he's got to have a sword, and he's got to, go through this whole, hero's journey and everything, just all this stuff. And the word Excelsior popped into my head because being a comic book fan growing up, we all know, like the way that Stan Lee would always end his soapboxes with Excelsior and all of this, and knowing Star Trek as I did, Star Trek's 3, 4, and 6 had the starship Excelsior, and just the word was always around. It's on the New York State flag, so it was always just a part of my life, that word. And so I just said, like, that's going to be his name. And so I just started drawing this character, and he became like really like the centerpiece of this whole universe. And so in 2000, and I kept on picking at him over the years. And then finally in 2007, same year that I got married, my wife and I went to Barnes and Noble one time, and I found this book called No Plot, No Problem. And it's by this guy named Chris Beatty, and he was the founder of National Novel Writing Month. I had never heard of it at that point, but I picked up the book. It's a small book, and I went through it, and I went through the whole history of NaNoWriMo. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. This sounds awesome. 50,000 words in 30 days, but if it's broken down like this, only 5 pages, double spaced, I can do that. I can do that every day. Why? Yeah, why not? And I turned the page and I was like, okay, day 1, let's begin. And that's when I shut the book, because it was December of 2007, and National Novel Writing Month is in November. I was like, I can't do November. November is my wife's birthday. It's our anniversary. It's Thanksgiving. I cannot say in good conscience, I'm going to write a novel on top of all that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got to do something else. So I came up with, so I figured out June would be a good time. And so June of 2008 was when I wrote the first draft of the novel. And I was so convinced.
In that 30 days.
Yeah. Now it's the first
great.
draft. That's,
Okay.
It was nowhere near publisher ready.
I hear you. I've written a 30-page children's book, and I went through probably 4 or 5 different drafts, got opinions from a bunch of different people that I was close with, and kind of picked their brain. I tried rhyming schemes, not rhyming schemes, and it's taking me more than a year to get to even close. And I wrote a holiday one last summer, and the holiday one's like ready, but I'm like, I don't feel this one's like ready yet, but that's also part of myself as well. It's like, this one's probably closer to ready than I think it is. And it's like, it's already written, it's ready. I've tried rhymes. I didn't like the rhymes. I like kind of the structure I had before. And so I want to keep with that same kind of character ideas, things like that. And we can jump into that. I'll give it back to you. But yeah, it's like I have 2 more ideas that are already in my head for 2 more that I want to write, but I don't know if I'm ready to take the next step from there. So
I know the feeling. I know the feeling. It was always just like that that I was so convinced when I did that it was just like, okay, all I got to do is just, sharpen it up a little bit here to here to here, and then I can start shopping it around to agents. And I showed it to a friend of mine who is a very well experienced author and editor, and I showed her the book. I showed her the initial draft, and she looked at that first chapter and just said, wow, this is going to take a lot of work. And we worked for over 2 years to really kind of sharpen up the story and make it just much more pliable and much more universally reachable. And at that point, that was when I decided I was going to go indie with it and just go and self-publish it. So I set up a not a Kickstarter, but I set up a pre-order form so that people could pre-order their copies and not only guarantee their own signed copy, but also to get their names listed in the acknowledgement section in the back of the book. And that wound up covering all of my setup costs, all of my printing costs, all of my shipping costs for everyone who lived outside of New York City that I couldn't just hand the book off to. And then all of the, and then some of the costs for the party afterwards, for the launch party. So it was a wild time. And it wound up doing exactly what I hoped it would do. But then nothing too much really happened with it. And so I decided I was going to work with a small press based out of St. Louis, and they picked it up and they ran with it for a while. And then when they closed down, I had another publisher that was interested in it, but they wanted to do some updates to it. and basically just said, "What are you above doing some editing for it, mainly for like the second third of it, to really kind of up the character elements to it." And I was just like, I just want this book to be the very best it can be. So please, like, have at it. And their editor, who was one of my best friends, she took a sledgehammer to it. And there was so much that needed to be done. I had to stop working on the sequel just so I can fix that. So it was, that in itself was quite the journey. But at the same time, it just made the book better and better and better. And that wound up resulting in the 2017 version that came out. And that to me was the best that it could be at that time. I still believe that it's currently the best as it is. But it was also that one that wound up getting the BookBub deal that wound up making it an international bestseller, because it wound up hitting number one in one of the spots in one of the lists on Amazon US. And then when I checked on Amazon Canada, it was number one in 3 other spots. So I was like, international, cool. I'm an international bestseller. Hooray.
Yay.
And I just took that and ran with it. And then and it was around that time in 2016, that's when I really decided I was going to go into audiobook narrating. I had already taken voice lessons, and I had done a Kickstarter for that to raise money for it. And that in itself wound up being a real a great journey as well. And that's something that I am very, very grateful for everyone taking a chance on me on that, because that led me down the path to becoming an audiobook narrator. And I've since done almost 20 books now. And so that in itself was has been a great journey so far.
Very cool. No, that's awesome. And so part 2 is out and available: ebook, paperback, audiobook.
What currently, actually, I actually need to amend that, because my publisher in 2022 had to close up shop. So it's since found a new home with a new publisher, but that those books won't get on the printing schedule until part 3 is finished and delivered. So that's where that currently is. So I don't want to say it's in limbo, but it's definitely right now, it's just not available. The only way it's available, parts 1 and 2 are available on audio, because I was able to retain the audio rights. But so they're still out there, they're still available, and they can still be heard and hopefully enjoyed. And it's the same with my 5-part serial from Parts Unknown. That one just found a home as well with the same publisher, and I'm really excited about the potential for that one, because that one's set to come out next year. And I am just really excited. I'm excited that my publisher is excited about that one. So that to me is just something that I've always kind of held on myself, just because it's such a niche market. But the fact that they're excited and they have ideas about what to do with it and how to run with it, I'm just like, I am so happy that I picked you guys, and I am just thrilled to be working with them.
That's incredible. And so, okay, so if I understand this right, Excelsior and Ever Upward are only available audiobook
on audio.
Or
yes.
Okay. Part 3, Greater Glory, Two Gods, One Soul, is still in the works. Okay.
Yep.
And then from Parts Unknown, the complete 5-part serial is not available at all.
Right. Not until next year.
Okay. Yeah. So this available on ebook and paperback on the website. That's not
that
needs to be
that's a good reminder to me that I need to update the damn website.
And this one is really interesting. I'm just going to read this here, and if this has changed at all, please correct me. But
sure.
A little synopsis here, and I'm really interested in this. I think it could be really cool. Out of work, out of insurance, out of options. All Stephen Barker wants is to provide a better life for his wife and child, and his only answer is to become a star in the last remaining sport in America, the Gladiator Combat League. So I'm guessing this is set in the future?
Yes. This is set in a time that I like to call a dystopia in progress. It's because, like, we've seen movies like Blade Runner where everything is fully established, where the skyscrapers are literally scraping against the sky because they're so tall. But we're seeing right now, like at where we are when this story starts, we're seeing those buildings being built on top of what's already there. So
Gotcha.
everything is just kind of is shifting downward. The New York Public Library is now just simply known as Manhattan 42, which is the latest housing facility for low-income residents. They've just recently announced at the beginning of the story, they've announced that the people have voted on a new rule to be added to the GCL rulebook, which is allowing blunt objects to be used as weapons in the ring. And when that happens, immediately anyone who is on unemployment, they get taken away. So now all of a sudden, because the money's got to go somewhere, so the public is saying, they want the entertainment, they want lead pipes to be used against opponents in the ring. Well, that's all well and good, but when they're out of the ring, they got to get the best possible medical treatment. So the medical treatment's going to be given to these guys instead of where it needs to be. So there's a constant push and pull for that. For every change that's added to the GCL rulebook, more and more rights are being taken away from
Where
the
is it
general public.
affecting, and it's affecting society in general.
Right. But
Interesting.
the entertainment is so good and the entertainment is so consistent that they're not seeing it. And if those who are seeing it don't care about it.
Makes sense. Makes sense, because the ones that are seeing it probably are contributing the money to it. So
Exactly.
So this makes a lot of sense. It's very interesting because it's very relatable to society today, and I love that it's set in New York. But while Steven's intentions are noble, he has no idea that the GCL is becoming more and more corrupt behind the scenes.
Yep.
The current world champion, Kyle Flight,
yeah.
Kyle Flight is forced to deal with constant rule changes proposed by the head booker, Vornicai, including the use of weapons in the rings. But Vornicai is keeping his latest plan to usurp the championship a secret from everyone. If it works, it will turn an ordinary man into a weapon to tear through the GCL ranks. All he needs is a test subject, someone like Steven. Dun, dun, dun. This sounds interesting, and I want an advanced copy on my desk by end of day tomorrow.
There you go. I had so much fun writing this. From Parts Unknown is such a joy to create, because this was something that really took place next year. The really cool thing is that it's scheduled to come out in 2025, which is 30 years ago at that time since I came up with the initial story. Because I remember this so vividly. I was in college. I was a freshman in college, and I've been a wrestling fan for most of my life. And I just happened to have watched an episode of Wrestling Challenge, and The Undertaker was on. Undertaker has always been my favorite character, favorite wrestler, favorite everything. And this was a period of time where in the storyline, Undertaker's urn was stolen from him. And it was right around the time when they're gearing up for WrestleMania 11, where he was taking on King Kong Bundy to try to get the urn back from the $1 Million Family.
This is old right here.
Oh yeah. So there was this one episode. This was during a time when Undertaker was basically just kind of running rampant through everyone because he was so just consumed by rage from what's going on. And he's being fed this regular, ordinary guy. This was during the time when they would just throw out, different jobbers, coming out there to just be fed for 1 minute, 2 minute long matches. And that's what this poor guy was. As soon as the bell rang, Undertaker grabbed him by the neck, choke slam, tombstone, 1, 2, 3, and that was it. And then he rolled up, put him in a body bag, and that was and it was all done. And so I was watching that, and I just remember taking a walk later on that day, and I was on Amsterdam Avenue as I'm walking through it, and I'm listening to my music, and I'm just like, what would it be like if these sort of larger than life characters, these larger than life scenarios, what if they were playing out in real life? What would that be like? What would that world be like? And that question led to me saying, well, it could be this and this and this. And it just kind of led me down this weird rabbit hole where I knew I had something, but I didn't know what it was. And then finally, it just kind of hit me that it would be really fun to have a character like The Undertaker, who was this imposing, larger than life character, someone ordinary who was turned into someone like that. And all of a sudden their free will is taken away from them. They are put in a situation where they are about to kill the champion, and looks out in the crowd and sees his wife, and that triggers a memory of who he once was, and then he turns on the people that made him into this monster. Then at first it was just like, this would be a fun video game. That was initially,
Yeah.
it was just like, once I had the story mapped out, it was just like, this would be a fun video game. So I worked on a video game concept for it, and
Oh, dang.
didn't really know what to do with it. So I just kind
Yeah.
of like let it sit there. And then in 99, at that time, I'm living with my father, and he was living with his girlfriend for a while. They broke up. He found a great spot in West Paterson, New Jersey. And he was just like, when I move, you're going with me, because we were both living at his girlfriend's house. So I was just like, yeah, absolutely. Because I felt lost, like where I was right there. I just graduated from college, didn't really know what I was doing with myself.
You're like 20 something. You're like 23.
Right, exactly. Just 22. Yeah. And so it was, it's like, all right, like we'll get a whole new change of scenery, and I'll get myself a new job, because I was working a part-time job, but that was only just doing it. That was barely getting by. And student loans were approaching. So I needed to start paying those off. So it was one of those things where just like, let's get moving on everything. So we got ourselves situated in a new place. I wound up interviewing for a new job. I wound up getting it. It wound up creating like a full-time wage. It was just like, okay, now we can move on with everything that I really wanted to do. Now I feel like I'm ready to contribute to the world. And so now let's really see what's going on. And then I revisited that story, and I was like, let's see how it looks as a treatment for a script. And I wrote the treatment. Let's see how it is as a script. And then I wrote 10 drafts of it. One of them I even submitted to this film festival back in 2000, the New York International Independent Film and Video Festival. And they were looking for screenplays as well. And they accepted my screenplay. And I was able to basically like get a little table there and just kind of talk about the story itself, and got some business cards from, prospective producers that I never heard from.
Right.
But it was like a germ of an idea. It was still like so weirdly formed that no one knew what to do with it. The festival itself wanted to give me some sort of credit. So they created a category called Best Futuristic Drama, just so that way they can give me a certificate for it. And so I got that. I was just like, hey, it's an award, I'll take it. And so it really wasn't much of anything. So then finally in 2001, I started writing a novelization of the latest version of the script. And in 2002, it was all finished. But it was only like one novel, and it was like about 230 something pages. And I still knew that there was something there, but as years passed and I kind of like revisited it back in 2011, I realized I needed to rewrite it again, because technology was different. My own writing style was different. Everything about it was just like, it just felt like Cro-Magnon me. So I needed to give it a full overhaul. And I wound up putting in everything. I was jotting down every little idea in this little notebook that I kept with me at work. And just every time it was just like, well, there's also this, and there's this, and there's this. And then that's when the idea of the government coming into play was part of this, where they are the ones that are subsidizing this company that would be called the GCL.
Sure.
It was like one idea after another was coming into play. And then as I'm rewriting this new version, it got to a point where it was I was about 60% through the story, and I had passed the word count of my previous one. And so I was just like, let's really go for the expansion. Let's break it up into a 5-part serial. And so that's when that version came out. And so since then it's become, like I've sent it out in different ways. It was like 5 separate ebooks for a little while, and then it was 2 paperbacks where it was parts 1, 2, and 3 for part 1, and parts 4 and 5 for part 2, and then it became like one big volume of all 5 parts in one book, and all different ways to try to like, make something happen with it. And this publisher is so excited for what's to come that, they not only took that on, but they also took on my ideas for a board game that's based on it. They came up with a card game based on it, and they got ideas for other things as well. So I couldn't have picked a better team to have with me on this.
That's incredible. It sounds just super fun. Like I can see how something like this would be an awesome like RPG. You get to play as Steven and go through all this and make all the choices. I can see it as like a long form board game, kind of like Pandemic, and like having like expansions on the different parts. So you get like the base one, but then you get expansion 2, 3, 4, 5 would be really cool.
Yeah.
I can see how it could be 2 novels. I can see how it can be one big old novel. I can see
I
how
have
it
a
could be
sequel.
5 little mini novels.
I do have a sequel. I do have a sequel in mind. And yeah, because like as a wrestling fan, I also went through the frustrating missed opportunity that was the WCW invasion of 2001.
Remember
And
that.
so I always wanted to do the more I was thinking about it, was just like, I would love to do an invasion storyline
So
in this universe.
let me ask this. Is Vornicai, is that kind of this universe's Vince McMahon in a sense?
He's actually this universe's Triple H.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because the more I got to see how Triple H evolved as a character, the more I saw like that's him. Like he is Vornicai. Yeah, he's somewhat, and he's kind of like he's a mix of Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels came into it as part of the Rockers with Marty Jannetty. He turns on Marty Jannetty and then completely revamps himself, and then just grows and grows and grows as a character. That's basically what Vornicai did. He came in as if you were to equate him with a modern day tag team, he would have been Power and Glory. He would have been like, with Hercules and Paul Roma. He would have been the Hercules guy, while his partner would be the Paul Roma guy, like the high flyer. And or like if you wanted, Bret Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, he would be the Anvil. And so he came in as Vivacious Victor Vornicke, and his partner was Mighty Marvin McIntyre. And he had an opportunity to basically like grow within the company. And so he turned on Marvin. He turned on his tag team partner. He turned heel, became the bad guy, and completely revamped himself and became Vornicai.
Love that.
Yeah. And then ever since then, he was just like, he put himself in a position politically where he would be the head booker, where he would be the matchmaker. And he basically used his newfound power to give himself every opportunity to face Kyle Flight in the ring. And each time, the more he did it, the less the public was interested, to the point where he basically just had one more shot to get the title himself. And when he failed to do it, he basically just decided that he was going to use whatever method was necessary to get that belt off of Kyle. And his latest of doing that is the formula that turns Steven into this monster known as submission, and basically using him as his tool of destruction.
Gotcha. I like it. Well, I'm excited for when this comes out. We'll have to keep a pulse on this. I'll stay in touch for this. This is going to be really cool. Sounds like you have a fantastic team that you're working with and developing these stories with and creating it and bringing it to life, to put in the reader's hands and to put in our hands just as like fans and whatnot. And I'm sure there will be, or possibly, I would imagine, since there's an Excelsior podcast, I'm sure there may be from Parts Unknown come someday, maybe.
I've been throwing around the idea. I've been wanting to kind of take the set it up as a hybrid of an audiobook / podcast.
Kind of like what's his name did. Kind of like David Goggins did with a couple of his books. He kind of did an audiobook podcast kind of thing. And I thought that was super cool how he
like reading a chapter, right? Like reading
he kind of, yeah, like he read it, but then he also like was like podcasting about it at the same. It was like super interesting. It was like a hybrid kind of thing, and
Yeah.
it's really cool because it really added just more depth to the story. Because like you, obviously, paper's black and white. You only can
Yeah.
fit so many words into a story,
Mhm.
right? But then what he did was that he would read it, but then like there were different parts, like he would just briefly touch on in the book just to give like you, the reader, enough context. But
Mhm.
then when he's reading the audiobook and doing the audio podcast book thing, he could dive into those parts more. So he could kind of go off base a little bit with the right
Oh, I like that.
question. Was it David I'm pretty sure it was David Goggins. But he would like talk about it. He would read the book, but then it's like, okay, then question would go off, and then he would go deeper into this world, and then he would kind of bring it back to the book, and then he would go deeper into the world again. So it all kind of just let the creative thing kind of come in and really share more than what was just black and white in the text. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I need to definitely take a listen to that because it sounds along the lines of what I have in mind for the future.
Yeah, I'll have
there
to
is
find it and send it to you, but
yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure where it is. I'm not sure which one it is. I want to say it's David Goggins, but it could be someone else, but I'm 99% sure it's David Goggins.
Gotcha.
So, well, let's wrap up here. My wife
Mhm.
and 3-year-old are bugging me for breakfast. It's waffles morning. So,
Oh, that's always good.
waffles are calling our name. But before we wrap
Mhm.
up, I do just want to give a second shout out here, ending shout out to another one of our supporters of the podcast, the June app. That's Joon. If your child struggles with habits, routines, maybe they have ADHD, maybe they're on the autism spectrum, maybe they have ADHD, which is a mix of autism and ADHD, or maybe they just struggle with habits and routines. That's just not a strong suit of them. Maybe it's not a strong suit of yours, so that's okay too. What June does, it comes in, it plays a crucial part here. You, as a parent, get to create the habits and routines that you want your child to have every single day, from waking up in the morning, a morning routine, to a nighttime routine, to hygiene habits and everything in between. And you as a parent get to assign these tasks every day, what those tasks look like, repeat them, not repeat them, certain days of the week, chores, everything. The kid then goes in, they get to play a game essentially by doing these tasks. They get to take care of pets and use their coins they earn to play games. So they go in, they check off the tasks that they do. It sends it back to you as a parent and the parent side of the app. And you have to go in and verify before they even get those coins in their little piggy bank in the app. And
I
you get
like
to
that.
say, okay, did you clean your room up to standard? No, cool. I guess I'm only giving you half the coins. But then it opens up the conversation for you as a parent to say, hey, your room's not as clean as it usually is. What's going on today? Or hey, let's fix this up a little bit. And you can continually give them the chance to earn their maximum amount of coins, which I think is really cool. So again, that's June, Joon, and you can try that app absolutely for free. Follow the link in the description of the episode. You'll try it for free. And if you love it, great. You can get some money off your subscription with the code Young Dad. That's YNGDAD. And there's a direct to listener link as well down there for you as well. So just to kind of end us here, I did the math while we were talking, George, and
Mhm.
you had your daughter when you were about 40 years old, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah. Well,
Correct. So
41.
41. Okay. I wasn't sure
Yeah.
when your birthday was, but I'm
Yeah.
like, it's either 40 or 41, somewhere
Yeah.
in there. So with that, um, what advice would you have? So you got to kind of experience life, go
Mhm.
through life a bit. You got to be married for
10
several
years.
years, 10 years before. Okay, that's what I thought. I'm like,
Yep.
I can't remember the math. I'm not that sure.
We had hit our 10-year anniversary right before. So yeah.
Very cool. So you were
Mhm.
married for 10 years. You got to kind of live out your 20s and your 30s,
Mhm.
married throughout that duration. What advice would you have to the young dad? I became a dad when I was 22 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, exactly. So if you had to give a young dad a couple pieces of advice just from your life, being a dad, when you became a dad, age is just a number, really.
Mhm.
But what advice would you have for the young dad, brand new father, just scared out of his mind, 20 years old, and just comes to you and says, George, what do you got for me? What advice? He can't even get the words out, kind of thing.
I would say go into this with no regrets. Don't think about what you didn't have a chance to do or what you should have done instead of this. There's a lot of things that that I myself kind of live with, But the one thing that I don't want to live with anymore is regretting different things that I didn't do or I should have done or anything. It's in the past. What matters is going forward. What matters is the family that you have. What matters is the people that are with you, the people that are supporting you. What matters is not trying to consistently try to win the favor of the people that really didn't want anything to do with you anyway. You got to, it's very much along the lines of when you're doing like a speaking engagement. It's very easy to go into a packed room that is ready to hear you and go out and crush whatever it is that you're going to be saying. But if you go out and there are only like about a few people there and you're bummed out and you bomb in front of them, then all they're going to do is just tell everyone how much you suck. And so, but if you can give it your all for the people that are there, then that's just going to create a great thing. So don't think about the empty seats. I guess that if I were to like boil it down to anything, that's what I would say. Don't dwell on the empty seats. Think about the people that are there for you, that have filled those seats, because those seats may not be filled forever. So you want to make sure that you're making sure that you are making it worth their while, that they sat down at that seat, whether it's in life, whether it's at an engagement, whether it is, at a convention or a conference or whatever it is, the people that want to give you their time, then show appreciation for that and show up for them.
Love that. I love that. Well, George, this has been a great conversation, from fatherhood to books to WCW to wrestling to all the things in between. It's been a super fun conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And the people can find more of you at he'sgotit.com.
Yes.
Correct.
Although don't go right away. Give me a chance to update the website.
By the time this comes out, I'm sure the website will be updated. He'sgotit.com. You can see all the works, the books, everything he has coming out. I can't wait to get on that pre-order list for
From Parts Unknown. Yeah.
That one. Yep. Thank you. And it's been super fun having you. Make sure wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, if you can take a moment, please go and subscribe if you're on YouTube, follow if you're on Spotify, leave a review, leave a 5-star review and a comment on Apple Podcasts. And then every other podcasting platform, wherever you're watching this or listening to it, do whatever you can do on there to support the podcast. It's great. And then lastly, go to the very bottom of the description of this episode and click support the podcast. And that'll take you to all the different ways that you can show support for the podcast and support this awesome journey that we're on. With that, George, thank you so much. Listeners, thank you guys for your time today and for joining us for this conversation. And we'll see you next time on the podcast here.
All right. All good?
Perfect. Yep.
All right. Let me go ahead and end the recording now. And I had it set on local so that way